what are 3 toxic behaviors that parents should never have around their kids?
3 toxic behaviors would be talking to kids about their body size is something that can be very triggering to children and can actually promote the ways in which children see themselves and even promote certain eating disorders. So that's something that is incredibly important for parents to just bear in mind how you're talking to your children about even like comparing body size between children or, just talking to them singularly about their own body.
Even if they think it's harmless, it could be harmful.
It could be. It could be.
So be mindful of that.
Being mindful of that and how it's interpreted. And if, of course, always, if you feel like maybe I've erred, maybe, I said something that could be interpreted in a different way, there's always repair. And that's the thing that we sometimes lose sight of. Like, you can always go back and say, listen, I want to say that differently. Let me try that again, right? And there's opportunity, because parents tend to think, I messed them up. That's it. It's done, right? Not really. Actually, they have an opportunity to not only feel affirmed by you, feel seen by you, feel like they're important because you came back, but also have modeling around how you can do repairs. It's beautiful.
Good.
There's so much that can be gained there. A second thing is perhaps, parents having relational conflict that is violent around their children.
Like screaming to one another.
Slamming
with parents.
doors, throwing things, saying nasty things to one another, right?
How harmful is that to kids when parents speak badly to one another, when they scream, when they give the silent treatment, when they slam a door and lock themselves in another room? How harmful can that be to the children's psyche and emotional well-being?
Well, children have an underdeveloped nervous system that's taking in a lot of the sense of lack of safety in their environment at that point in time. So in that moment, even if the parent can't see it, there's a lot happening internally in that little body that's already like their heart rate is increasing, like their pupils are becoming dilated. They're like probably sweating, like there's a lot happening because they're like ready for battle, basically, right? And the battle is truly happening right in front of them. But from a more psychological perspective, this child is probably having fantasies about how they can save their family from this tormenting situation that they're encountering, right? And very often it leaves a child in the position of having fantasies of saving a parent that they could never save and oftentimes living with that guilt.
Yeah. What does that do to a child when they grow up thinking they have to rescue their parents, parent their parents, and also get into a relationship with an adult, an intimate relationship, and almost feel like they have to rescue or parent them?
They become codependent.
Really?
More often than not, people, the saving of another person or the being the emotional blanket of another person or the person to continuously soothe that person means that you are entangled in a codependent process with that person. And it could be driven by your own fantasies of saving, right? Like, I can save this person from their own pain. I wanted to do it with my parents. I couldn't. I can do it with this partner. And it gets into really tricky territory.
Is it possible to save someone in a relationship? Like, if you're in this codependent relationship, is there ever been a way that you could actually rescue the person and save them from themselves?
You can, I believe, save a person from themselves in the best way by helping them to obtain the tools to save themselves.
Yeah, but what if they don't want them?
Then they are really the only person that can save themselves.
I know. And then you end up resenting them or being frustrated or being guilty that you can't save someone or something like that, right?
It will never end.
Oh, man.
It's a vicious cycle.
It's exhausting, right? And then you get married, you have kids, and you just pass down the trauma.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Kids absorb all of that. They see it modeled. They hear the language that's being utilized. They absorb that language. They integrate it into their being. They develop that language when they start forming relationships. It just becomes a cycle when it's not addressed and when people are unwilling to actually do the work.
Gosh. So, how do kids, if they're like teenagers after they've experienced a lot of this for 15, 18 years, how can a child do their own healing if they're 18, 22, 25, and they're still kind of young and developing and just realizing this? How can they do this if their parents aren't willing to heal and break the cycle with them?
Yeah, that's a really hard thing for a child to do, given that there's this power differential and a hierarchy and a dynamic in which they are, in essence, pretty much at the mercy of the adult that could also cause them harm. And I have seen it time and again that many children or emerging adults have also, found a way to transition, even if it's in a mental way, just transition from the hold that the people in their lives have on them.
Wow.
And liberate themselves until the moment where they can actually be free as an adult that is independent of their parents. It's why a lot of people sometimes, I'm not a big proponent of just cut everybody off, but some people do go no contact because they feel like there is so much that is toxic within this environment that is immobile. It's not changing. Mm-hmm. It's frozen in this home, but I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want for my heart to feel heavy for the rest of my life whenever I enter this home. So I have to extract myself.
The more I started to recall my past and do the healing work, I left home when I was 13. I begged my parents to send me away. And most kids get sent away if they're doing something bad. And I wasn't say I was like a perfect kid, but I wasn't like a horrible kid, but I was kind of in between. And I begged them for a whole summer to send me away. And as I started to recall back, why did I want to leave so badly? I remember 6 months before that, them getting into a really big fight where I felt just like this home is not safe. Mm-hmm. But there was almost every week some type of argument or loud screaming or slamming of doors or emotional distance between them from as far as I can remember. So I know they loved me and I loved them, but I didn't feel safe with them together.
Yeah.
And I think it was just my body or my nervous system telling me get out. And even though I, loved going home and visiting and all these different things, I just didn't want to be there. And I feel like it was like a defense or protection mechanism to beg them to send me away. Every day for a summer, I said, please send me to this other school. It was about a 7-hour drive away. And I think it actually saved me emotionally because I didn't know how to handle it emotionally, how to help them when they were going through constant breakdowns.
Yes.
And they eventually got divorced. They should have been divorced many years before or started healing many years before. But that was challenging. And not everyone has that ability to run away or get away.
Right.
I feel like I really got lucky. But it didn't feel emotionally safe. And so that's why I worry about kids if they're in environments where their parents are emotionally unwell with each other. It's just how do we manage that? As kids, we don't have the tools, we don't have the training, we don't have the support, if that is our support.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing.
It is scary. It's scary because, you almost kind of feel imprisoned into the spaces that you're in. And as we know, that can breed a lot of lack of health, whether it's physical or mental. It really can blossom from there. What we start seeing kids do is actually exhibiting behavior that is actually destructive in some ways, either self-destructive or other destructive. Uh-huh. And it's a representation of them just wanting to get out of the spaces that feel unwell or psychologically damaging.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, I think that's a cue for any parent that's out there that perhaps might think, the kids they're not absorbing this. They are.
They are. Kids watch everything, right? Mm-hmm. They're consuming everything. They hear everything.
They're sponges.
And they're feeling it.
Yeah.
I remember my parents screaming at each other in the kitchen and I'd be in the living room and I'd just be in terror, trying to watch TV to block it. But it's what's happening? Am I safe?
Yeah.
Just psychologically, you just don't know.
We all want safety. We all seek it. We all deserve it. And it is why I believe that, anybody who is willing to do the work with their kids even, or anybody who is willing to even teach, skills that are holistic in schools, is helping the next generation to have, maybe even better shock absorbers. Maybe their home environment isn't changing as quickly as it needs to for their own well-being, but they can actually hold their emotions in a different way so as to not then develop trauma symptoms as a result.
Right, right.